The day started like any other, with the announcement that training had officially begun. But there was a twist. No scheduled classes. Instead, everyone was left waiting in their rooms for their assigned teacher to drop by and fill them in on their new routines. Carl couldn't help but feel a little envious of the laid-back vibe. This seemed more like an elite lifestyle than any school he knew. Maybe, just maybe, he'd get lucky with a calm teacher who wouldn't shout over wrong answers or make students run laps for the slightest distraction. As breakfast came, he packed up some food for his hawk, who wasn't eating as much lately. It was growing. Not to be underestimated, though, it wasn't the largest of beasts. Its sharp eyes and deadly strikes made it a serious threat. And once it mastered the Ren skill, it could take down enemies much stronger than itself. Carl spent the afternoon practicing his own skills and napping, but when the teacher finally arrived, it was way past noon. He answered the door to a sharp-featured woman who introduced herself as Sergeant Rita, his new combat skills professor and personal guide. She was here to teach him everything about martial arts and the elite skills that would shape him into something much greater. Carl's class is different from the others, so much so that the academy can't even fit it into their usual schedule. Instead of the regular lessons, he's paired with Sergeant Rita, whose method of teaching is as rough as her personality. As Carl follows her outside to a balcony, it's clear that even though the plants left in his room may seem unimportant, they draw her attention. She's impressed that he's taken care of them, watering them properly. This odd little moment, simple as it is, shows Carl's attention to detail in a world where every move could mean life or death. It's a small victory in a harsh environment where being different is both a curse and a potential source of power. Carl's journey is just beginning, and what seems like a quiet moment might be the start of something bigger. Carl's new life at the academy is a whirlwind of challenging. Dropped into a high-stakes world where the strong thrive, he's got nothing but a strange set of powers and a hawk, that he unwittingly bonded with. This hawk isn't just any bird though, it's linked to him in a way that opens up incredible abilities. From heightened senses to a brutal close-range attack, Carl's skills are raw and evolving. His powers don't develop like the flashy spells of his peers, and that's a problem. The academy runs on results, and results come with a deadline. But the sergeant, with a no-nonsense attitude, gives him a shot. She pushes him to open up about his abilities, encouraging him to trust and train because the more he learns about what he can do, the faster he can rise. This is a story about survival, growth, and unlocking powers that go beyond magic. It's about bonding with a beast, mastering your skills, and navigating an academy that doesn't hand out second chances. The real question is, can Carl evolve in time to uncover the secrets behind his strange power sand, maybe even change the fate of those around him? Sergeant Rita squinted at the tiny bird for a moment, trying to wrap her head around what she had just heard. So, you've got this power where you form bonds with monsters, and you can use their abilities? That's impressive, but still a dangerous road to travel, especially fighting other monsters. Carl nodded, a bit of a smirk creeping up. Yeah, that's true, but since we're on the same page, with a little training, I won't be in this fight alone. I'll have Hawk with me. Rita's smile widened, a glint of approval in her eyes. What if we find you a better beast cub? If you get something tougher than the Windspeed Hawk, you could be one of the top elites. Hawk, clearly offended, flapped his wings furiously at the thought of being replaced so soon. Does this woman have no shame? The Hawk thought, indignation echoing in his tiny feathery chest. I'm fully grown, I can hit commander rank, and she's just an ascendant warrior. Give it a month, and I'll bet I could beat her up. Hawk's voice screeched through Carl's mind, his mental projection carrying an irritable edge. The sergeant, eyes narrowed, smirked at the audacity of the fledgling. What is he saying, she asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. Carl shrugged, playing the role of translator. He says that when he grows up, he'll be a commander and you'll still be ascendant. The sergeant shot Carl a glare, which he met with an innocent gesture of surrender. Hey, you asked, and that's what he said. I'm just the messenger here. Her sharp eyes widened slightly, realizing the Hawk's intelligence had a surprising depth. So, it really is capable of coherent thought at this stage. Interesting. I know it's only the first day, but we should hit the training grounds. Let's see what you two can do when you're in sync. With that, the sergeant led Carl down to a wide-open coliseum. This is the venue for today, she said, giving him a knowing smile. It's a bit empty now, but once it's packed, you'll love it. For now, you can send your Hawk as far out as you want. Let's see what we can do with the training gear. Don't worry, it's built to handle the hits from high-tier magical beasts. We'll be fine, she reassured. The Coliseum wasn't a typical arena. It had been a massive football stadium transformed into a battleground after the Academy took over. The space was vast and open, protected by magical shields and reinforced armor to keep the crowd safe. All right, call out your bird. You two get the first move, Sergeant Rita suggested as they took their positions. Hawk, Get up high and attack from the side. She's going to expect you from behind, Carl directed, pulling out his sword after checking his gauntlets. The hawk shot up 50 meters and circled, awaiting the signal. Carl slashed forward with a mighty blow, using his power to create a rending arc that Rita easily blocked with one of her daggers. She dodged as the hawk's attack zoomed by, only to parry Carl's follow-up strike. She countered quickly, surging with energy, and charged at Carl. He sidestepped, swinging his sword, which she blocked effortlessly, but her focus slipped for a moment. That was when Hawk's strike landed, right between her shoulders, leaving a deep, red mark. What now, Carl thought, already planning the next move. Hawk's eyes widened in panic. Her neck doesn't break when I attack it, he shouted, but Carl only nodded in urgency. Keep attacking! She's stronger, but she's here to teach us how to fight. With a desperate scramble, Carl deflected the incoming daggers, feeling the weight of the training as his arms burned. He could see her holding back, pushing them to their limits, her precision deadly. That bird's accuracy is insane. I can see why you'd feel confident with a companion like that. If I were one of your classmates, I'd be in the infirmary after that neck strike. The sergeant's voice rang out, acknowledging their struggle. Carl had underestimated how fast that bird could strike. Just as she prepared for another devastating attack, Rita turned, keeping her line of sight on both of them, and launched a flurry of strikes that sent Carl crashing to the ground. As she blocked Hawk's counterattack, she grinned. All right, I know your weaknesses now. First things first, we need to work on your fighting skills. While the bird strikes are like constant sneak attacks load damage but impossible to dodge, you'll need to take the hits until you can bring in another pet or teammate to pull their attention away. Carl's mind processed it. He was, after all, still a warrior class. Just one, bonded with a beast. Learning a whole combat system? Yeah, that's gonna be rough. But Carl doesn't have much of a choice. His life's on the line after graduation, and unless he's willing to settle for a cushy, boring life working for the super rich and dodging any battle calls, he has to push forward. But giving up his dream of becoming famous and powerful? That's not an option. He might be stuck at the bottom, but at least it's not in a life where he's just another desk jockey avoiding real danger. Even the elite idols who sing and dance in front of cameras have to fight to prove themselves, just with a little more flair than some anonymous lawyer being sent into random attacks. So when Carl finally asks what's next, thinking it's going to be sword fighting or magic, Sergeant Rita just laughs and tells him to start with the basics, physical conditioning. His body's already adjusting to the magical serum, and with that comes the potential for real transformation quickly, moving from a basic body to one ready for battle. It's all about getting stronger, faster, and preparing for the day when he'll face real enemy zones with deadly intent. Carl had no doubt about it, there were definitely going to be some grueling laps around the academy. Follow me to the gym. We have a bunch of agility types working out there now, so you should be able to use the equipment. I'll guide you through a basic routine today, and we'll set your baseline. By the end of the month, you should meet the minimum Awakens standard, but the official tests are at the end of the semester. So most students need that long to make it to Awakened? Carl asked, feeling a little better. No, most will meet the minimum in a few weeks. The real geniuses will be close to Ascended by the end of the first semester, and some will get there by the start of the second year, came the response. Just like that, Carl's dreams of easy days as an elite fighter were shattered. When they reached the gym, an attendant handed Carl a workout, uniform sneakers, shorts, and a shirt in the academy's white and gold. He was sent to the locker rooms to shower and change. It was academy policy, shower before and after using equipment. Apparently, the new students didn't wash well enough on their own, and today, it seemed like they expected him to be already drenched in sweat. Sergeant Rita was ready in no time, sporting a black tank top, fresh green cargo pants, and clean boots. Carl couldn't help but wonder if the green was a military regulation or just an attempt to blend in with the student. Elite soldiers, he'd heard, weren't part of the regular military but belonged to a separate branch of government. They didn't make appearances at places like the mines, and Carl had never seen one until now. The agility-type warriors, as Rita described them, were predominantly women, leaving Carl wondering about the strange effects the mana injection had on their bodies. Was it some form of bias, or maybe a side effect of their powers? He couldn't deny the hit to his ego, realizing his body was about as strong as a 14-year-old girl's place. But when he looked at the strength-type warriors' bulky, muscle-bound figures lifting like giant, she reassured himself that maybe he was where he needed to be. First up, upper body strength, Rita announced. That skill of yours puts a lot of resistance on your body, and you need to power through it without bulking up too much. You still need to be able to move. What followed was 2 grueling hours of training. By the time Carl limped to the showers, every muscle in his body screamed in exhaustion, and sleep was all he could think of. Carl was on the brink of passing out when Hawk, The trusty sidekick slid a piece of cold roast chicken his way Windspeed Hawk style, a quick survival ration. It might not have been much, but that small piece of food was a lifeline, especially with a quarter of roast chicken and raw meat still hanging around. After he freshened up, Carl stumbled back to the dorms and made a beeline for the cafeteria, in desperate need of some sugar and caffeine. If this was going to be his daily grind, he'd need to bulk up his meals. Despite feeling like he had one foot in the grave, he still looked better than the next batch of cadets arriving, barely holding it together, bruised, burned, and covered in strange liquids. Carl, with a wry grin, asked one of the mages, "What happened to you?" The guy nearly toppled out of his seat from the shock. "Skills training?" he groaned, voice drenched in exhaustion. "I've been casting lightning bolt all day, 30 times, and I had to down supplements every time until I stopped zapping myself and everyone around me." He looked half dead. "What about you?" The girl with charred sections on her uniform shot a question back at Carl. Combat class with the instructor, followed by 2 hours with the agility fighters. Carl groaned, his legs feeling like they were turning into mush after the intense 2-hour workout. "What kind of monster instructor assigns a routine like that?" he complained. "Even the rookie warriors only get 30 minutes of weight training and 30 of cardio. What did I do to deserve this?" The girl next to him raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "No clue. But if she's already talking about turning you into some kind of awakened powerhouse, then she's got some high expectations," she said. The mages around them winced, groaning in unison. "We're all struggling to get our mana up to awakened levels before the end of the semester exams, and that's a hell of a challenge. Meditation is supposed to help, but how are we supposed to focus when our bodies feel like they've been run over?" One of the boys chimed in, pointing at a woman across the room. "Well, not all of us are suffering. Look at her, she's a demon. That woman doesn't even look tired, and she's covered in slime." "Slime girl?" Carl asked, confused. "Don't let it fool you. She's a water mage, and her first spell is Refreshing Water Slime. It helps her recover stamina and mana, so she's been wearing it like that all day. That was nearly a cheat ability." According to what these two said, mages trained their aptitude by maintaining and controlling their spells, and hers kept her stamina and mana refreshed while she wore it, meaning she could keep going without tiring out. She'd definitely level up fast. That was the kind of luck a true protagonist had, Carl thought. Slimes suck. You can't even eat them. They just squish. Hawk had a point. Not only was he a great combat assistant, but he was also edible. The students slowly made their way to their rooms, and Carl let Hawk sleep off his overindulgence while he lay in bed, too tired to sleep, too sore to do anything else. He wasn't sure when it shifted into blissful slumber, but he woke up to the alarm going off the next morning, telling him he had 15 minutes before Sergeant Rita arrived. Carl quickly showered, changed into his uniform, and barely had time to get ready before the sergeant knocked impatiently, breakfast tray in hand. "You're running late, so I brought food. Let's go to the gazebo so you can eat while you study," she instructed. Once seated, Sergeant Rita pulled out a small stone and placed it on the table. Carl stared at the stone, poking it with his spoon, then his finger. It was just a rock. "It's definitely a rock," he said. Rita, watching closely, raised an eyebrow. "Interesting," she remarked. "The psychic stone has no response to you, but you can communicate with your bird." Carl tried again, putting his hand on the stone, willing it to do something. Nothing. Another stone. Still no change. But when Rita placed a small golden coin on the table, an ancient relic from the Golden Dragon Nation, Carl felt an instant connection. His hand brushed the dragon on the coin, and a surge of power rushed through him. The beast within him stirred. This was just the beginning. So, that's the answer. That coin was blessed at the Dragon God Shrine during the last Dragon Festival. Looks like your powers are linked to the dragon energy. Since we're on that path, let's try something else. Rita pulled out a small vial with shimmering red liquid. "Oh, I want it! Ask the evil lady to give it to me!" Hawk demanded. "You should be glad she can't hear you." Chapter 14, Updated Mission Statement. Hawk thinks that'll be useful for him if he can get his hands on it. "What is it?" Carl asked. "Mana. Infused monster blood. It's a basic resource for physical cultivators. Drinking it strengthens the body and can trigger mutations. With no clear method to guide him, things could easily go sideways, but for a beast or monster, it'd be a walk in the park. It's all about knowing the process," she said, a hint of amusement lighting up her eyes. For a split second, she looked almost playful, but just as quickly, her expression shifted back to serious. She gestured toward the table. "Call him out. I want to see the process. If it works, the Academy will allocate more resources to the Hawk until it's combat ready. The briefings this morning suggest that turning you into a frontline fighter with just one rending attack is pointless. The senior professors think your best shot is training the Hawk, with you as backup, maybe even a leader in support or reconnaissance." Carl groaned. "Day 2, and I'm already sidelined?" Rita chuckled at his frustration. All the mages are headed in the same direction. It's about minimizing casualties. The more we can get fighting behind golems, summons, barriers, or monsters like yours, the better we stand against magical beasts. And the rival nations know we have the advantage. This uneasy peace won't last. If you don't want to be cannon fodder, you'd better get stronger fast. The scene shifted quickly from a brutal focus on physical strength to something much more intricate. Carl, still struggling to understand the depths of his strange abilities, found himself watching his hawk, now enjoying the mana-infused monster blood. The transformation was subtle but undeniable. The small bird grew, exuding a power far greater than its common grade status suggested. As Carl observed, a strange phenomenon occurred. A wave of energy flowed from Hawk to him. His senses sharpened, his muscles surged with newfound strength, and his mind cleared. Was it the monster blood, or was it something more? With Hawk growing in power, Carl felt himself growing stronger as well, but there was a limit to how much he could achieve through brute force alone. The next step was clear. The Academy would push him into more practical courses, to learn how to survive and fight with the bond between him and his beast. A bit more training, a bit more evolution, and maybe, just maybe, they'd find a way to accelerate his growth even further. With the ever-present threat of failure looming over him, Carl couldn't afford to wait too long. Survival was the only thing that mattered. The mana injections, they say, are a game changer. Superpowers for us, a safer future for the average Jano. More monsters, no more wars. But Carl isn't buying it. Sure, it sounds nice, but in a world where most kids will never see a battlefield, it's all just propaganda. He rolls his eyes, thinking about how many of these so-called warriors couldn't even stand up to artillery. I mean, come on, a sword might be cool, but it's not going to stop an airstrike. Still, some of these students, they're the real deal beasts. Magic, the whole 9 yards. As for Carl, he's on a different path, growing stronger with each beast he bonds with, his hawk companion becoming more powerful by the day. The day will come when he can rip through armor, no magic or sword needed. But for now, things are calm. No wars. The beasts are kept at bay. Just another day in the Golden Dragon Nation, at least for now. Listen up, Carl. You need all the combat training you can get, and I'll push for better resources for your hawk, Rita said, her tone matter of fact. Carl let her words sink in. A Windspeed hawk was fully grown by 4 months, but that didn't mean it was strong, just low-level, awakened with a common grade physique. To push past that, they'd need time, stronger prey, and a well-thought-out plan. Without it, he'd be stuck at a weak level in his second year. Rita started pulling out books way more detailed than the ones Carl had gotten on his first day. These were all about magical beasts, diets, traits, and abilities that could help his hawk evolve. I'll leave these with you. Come up with a feeding and care plan for the bird and back it up with what's in here. If it's solid and follows logic, I can get you more resources. At the very least, I can snag more mana-infused monster blood for the warriors who need a power boost. Carl stood there, a mix of confusion and determination as Rita smiled and left him to tackle the pile of books. They were all about monsters, written by hunters, and at best, they offered vague details about diet and habitats. But what Carl really needed was something to help him raise his beast, something that would make it grow faster to compete with wild beasts and magic user. Luckily, his task was simple just care and feeding for his hawk. But Carl had an advantage. As he turned to his hawk, resting in his mind, he asked, "What do you think would make you stronger? Some food, or something near you to help you grow faster?" The hawk, with its usual cheer, replied, "I like meat, and the red juice from that evil lady, and those blue fruits. Can I eat those?" Carl didn't hesitate, pulling out his notebook and scanning it. "Let me check what these are for." One glance revealed that the mountain gooseberries were treats for both humans and animals, useful for making monster bait. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Carl read the description of the mountain gooseberry twice. The fruit had no real nutritional value, but its smell could attract monsters. It was packed with mana, making it good for crafting weak mana potions. Still, even in concentrated form, it couldn't compete with a standard mana potion. He picked 3 berries and handed them to Hawk. "This is your limit. 1 a day. If you eat more, you'll get sick," he warned. Really, Carl just didn't want Hawk overindulging when there was a whole pile of meat waiting in the taming space. Hawk eyed the berries, then spread them on the raw meat and dove into his meal with enthusiasm. As Hawk took a break to let the mana settle in his body, Carl took out his homework papers. "Why do you call Sergeant Rita the evil woman?" he asked. Hawk's response came quickly. "Every time I see her, she wants me to work but never gives me food. What else could she be except evil?" It made perfect sense. The baby Hawk, a magical beast, had his own instincts, and hunger drove most of his actions. Whatever bond he and Carl shared made the bird loyal to him, but that didn't mean it had any love for others. "All right then, where's the best place to rest?" Carl asked. "Right here. Maybe those branches on the tea tree. They smell good and hide your scent from predators." Tea trees are good trees. All afternoon, Carl grilled the bird for answers and took notes. Then he dug into textbooks, searching for ways to help Monstersaur, even warriors improve skills like Rend. The first set of texts didn't have much, but the second one was full of warrior techniques. Rending attacks were common among the elite classes, taught in places like the Golden Divine Academy. Of course, there were supplements designed to enhance warriors' inner power, but the real question was whether any of it would help the hawk. Carl couldn't make sense of the description at first, so he began flipping through textbooks until he stumbled upon the alchemy guide. This one was more useful. After gathering a list of potential potions and remedies, Carl examined the ingredients, wondering which ones might work for Hawk. Most were herbal, but when he reached the strength potion, something caught his eye. It contained monster blood and a gemstone dust that radiated potent magical energy. This combination provided a temporary burst of strength, but Carl wasn't after power for Hawk, was after something else. The gemstone, infused with raw energy, could help Hawk grow faster. Continuing his search, Carl found another intriguing resource, a wind magic stone, crafted by mages as a mana storage device. Hawk thrived on mana, especially air magic, so this stone might complement him perfectly. With 4 potential ingredients in hand-high energy monster meat with berries, infused blood, the strength stone, and the wind stones, Carl could potentially push Hawk to awaken his full strength within the next few weeks. The next morning, Rita arrived to collect Carl's homework before breakfast and returned with a small bag for their classwork. Carl's journey at the Golden Divine Academy isn't going to be a walk in the park. With no magical powers to his name, he's already facing an uphill battle to survive, let alone thrive. But hey, at least he's got his hawk to bond with, right? After all, this is no ordinary bird, it's a wind speed hawk, and it's got potential, if only Carl can figure out how to make it evolve. Luckily, Rita's got his back, bringing in some serious resources. Strengthening stones, infused monster blood, and a batch of blue wind stones made by the headmaster himself. These powerful stones could do wonders for Carl's hawk, and the headmaster's even offering to make more if they work out. But don't get it twisted, Carl's still got plenty of training to do in martial arts. He can't rely solely on his hawk. If a mock battle goes south, he needs to hold his own, and with his magical abilities still developing, the pressure is on. As Hawk goes wild over the resources, Carl's got his work cut out for him not just to survive, but to rise up in the Academy's harsh rankings. Time to show everyone what the Clawmarked can do. Carl ignored the bird's antics in his mind and placed one of the strength stones into a dish of monster blood. The stone's energy slowly seeped into the soup, but Carl was uncertain about the wind stones. You can't crush them, it'll break the spell. But if you just sleep near them, or wear one, the mana should help, assuming you can use it. That's what the new air magic users do, he mused, calling Hawk over. The bird immediately swooped to the dish, licking it clean before eyeing the wind stones. Each stone, no bigger than a diamond, was packed with immense energy. Sleeping next to them was no problem, and Carl could make a pouch to hang around Hawk's neck. But the bird ate one, and suddenly, swirling winds tore through the balcony, knocking over plants as the air around them grew intense. Carl quickly pulled Hawk into his mental space. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "It's food. Amazing, powerful food. What else would I do but eat it?" The tiny bird buzzed with new magical power, unfazed by the destruction it had caused. "It looks like you've uploaded a file titled Marked by the Claw along with some associated content. How would you like to proceed with this? Would you like help with summarizing, expanding on the content, or something else? Did you gain anything from the process, perhaps more mana or a new power?" Rita asked her pen ready to record for the Academy. "I feel stronger, but I'm not sure how to measure my mana. Is there a device for that?" Carl replied, his curiosity piqued. "No, mages can sense it naturally, but you're not one. We can visit one later for a reading, but for now, try pushing your abilities and see how long you can last," Rita suggested. Carl hurried to grab the gauntlets from his closet and returned, flexing his arms, feeling the surge of power. Reaching the railing, he tested his strength, and the resistance of his Rend spell barely hindered him. His arm moved effortlessly, and the 4 arcs shot through the air, leaving a trail across the Academy courtyard. Impressive. That's definitely awakened rank power. But how many times can you use it? Without stamina, the Academy would classify it as a common class burst, not truly awakened, just like the Hawk's ability, Rita explained, eyes narrowing as she assessed his performance. Carl's breathing was heavy after pushing himself to the limit, but an idea sparked in his mind. "Give me a few minutes to recover, and I think I can do better." A short break and some food, and Carl was back in action, his strength restored. Rita took notes quietly, observing his recovery. Carl gave it another shot, this time at half strength, and to his surprise, the energy drain was minimal. The feedback from his Hawk, was just enough for him to feel he could keep going for hours, but instead, he pushed himself a dozen more times. alternating hands and angles like a boxer in training. 15 minutes at half. Output still common grade, but on the strong side. Looks like you're improving alongside the Hawk's growth. Once he's stronger, you could easily be an Awaken level fighter, or Beast Tamer, with the added benefit of an Awakened Beast. Not bad for the first week, huh? If you leave those resources here, we could do even better by the month's end. We might even be able to take on second-year students by exam time. Rita chuckled at Carl's excitement. You better find time for combat training then, or you'll be in for a beating, even with Hawk. Carl realized she was right-having a giant rhino. Would have made this whole beast taming thing a lot easier. Hawk darted towards the windstones the moment no one was looking, snatching another one. But this time, it wasn't the same explosive surge of energy. Instead, the wind magic flowed gently from the stone to the bird, and Hawk's body absorbed the power much more gradually. Is it only effective once? Rita wondered, flipping her black hair from her face. Maybe it's too much for him to handle all at once. This is a high-level resource compared to what he's used to. Carl nodded, agreeing. Could be. Hawk doesn't even get it. He just wants more of those stones. I'll ration them, though. Once he's absorbed this one, I'll give him a new one. It would take a while, as after devouring the second stone, Hawk was practically begging to be left alone in the mental space to recover. Food coma, Carl explained, watching the bird vanish in exhaustion. Rita frowned. That's not a proper training routine. She sighed and shook her head. But fine, today we can cut him some slack since he made such a big leap. Carl's journey is one of survival, grit, and unexpected bonds. He arrives at the elite Golden Divine Academy marked with glowing claw scars and with no immediate powers to show for himself. But when he defends a tiny Hawk, his fate changes forever. A bond forms, unlocking his class as a beast tamer, claw-marked. While his powers grow slowly, he's not without advantages, especially with his Hawk companion by his side. As he navigates the brutal academy life, Carl faces both mockery and enemies. But it's not just strength he needs Sid's strategy. With his Hawk evolving and gaining abilities, Carl knows the future isn't just about growing stronger, it's about growing smarter. Together, they'll need to face more than just the Academy's trials. Beast packs, invasions, and hidden secrets lurk, and Carl's bond with his Hawk may hold the key to unraveling a war buried in the Academy's past. Carl had an idea. Can we go down to the training areas? I think watching real combat might help us figure out how to get better at this, he said. With Hawk out for the moment, he might as well make the most of his time. Rita agreed, leading him from the dorms and across to the field. The large open area was filled with stone squares where students were busy sparring, practicing unarmed combat techniques. These were second-year students, skilled and focused, but Carl couldn't help but think of ways he and Hawk might handle them together. Rita had other plans, though. Today, we're doing something different, she said. Since you've got some range, let's work on your defense. If you're fighting from a distance and don't have magic armor like the mages, you'll need to block. We'll practice using your claws to block incoming attacks. It's like learning to play catch. The more you do it, the better you get. The way she said it sounded oddly menacing, especially as she led him away from the sparring field and toward a massive bunker. All right, listen up. You've got mages in training here, stronger students from the common class on the verge of becoming awakened. Sure, they might have more stamina thanks to years of practice, but don't forget it takes less energy to deflect their attacks than to actually form them. At first, they'll be launching attacks above your head down the hall. Don't sweat it. They shouldn't miss at their level. Just focus on deflecting them off target as best you can. Sergeant Rita's words echoed through the hall, met with fiery glares from the nearby mages. Who did she think she was, coming in and messing with their training? They were already at the bottom of the ladder, and now she was throwing in some newbie to disrupt their session? Apologies, seniors. Carl quickly spoke up, feeling the weight of their stares. But this is part of the training for everyone. Hitting a target is one thing, but in the real world, targets defend themselves. Learning to work around that defense and still land a hit, that's a skill you need too, Rita explained, adding some weight to her stance. At the end of the day, Carl's fate wasn't in his hands. He was just a student, and his training was someone else's call. But despite being the weakest among the elite, there was a sense of comfort in knowing this was more than just a drill. Rita led him to the training field, where a dozen targets awaited. Here's the deal, she explained. You're going to land hits on the targets as usual, but this time, Carl's going to try to stop you. He's got to build stamina, and with 12 of you against him, it should be an easy job. Push your limits, find new ways to hit the target. The moment she finished, they started casting, and Carl began deflecting spells left and right with his low-output rending blades. Some spells were deflected, some slowed, others barely lost any power and broke through. It depended on the element fire, and water were the hardest to block, while ice and earth were much easier to deflect. Trying to save mana, Carl switched to a single rending claw per attack, increasing their strength to nullify the incoming magic. Panting with effort, Carl realized his mistake. He needed multiple small hits, not one massive strike. As the mages started enjoying themselves, they realized Carl wasn't some prodigy sent to make them feel small. He was just a rookie working on his mana control, just like they had been in their first year. In Chapter 18, the game between Carl and the mages intensified. With everyone running low on stamina and magical power, breaks become a regular part of the routine. And Carl uses these moments to catch his breath, but he doesn't rest too long. He's quick to swat at any weak or lazy attacks, reminding the mages that they can't afford to slack off. The supervisor watching over the class sees this as a welcome shift, as the students, lacking self-motivation, were in desperate need of a push. While Sergeant Rita, a great martial artist, had spent years climbing the ranks, Carl was on track to surpass her by the end of his first semester. His potential is undeniable. After a tough morning of training, lunch arrives, and one of the mages, a tall blonde woman, invites Carl to join them. She's impressed by his combat skills, particularly his ranged claw attacks, a rarity among warriors early in their journey. The rest of the class may notice his progress, but they're too focused on devising new strategies to break through his defenses. Meanwhile, Carl remains undistracted, devouring a plate of meat infused with mana as his hawk companion continues to grow. It's clear Carl's strength lies not only in his combat skills, but also in his ability to adapt and learn from every encounter. A mage leaned in, his eyes sharp with concentration. What if we double the speed and fire them as pairs instead of one? That should at least get one through to the target. Another mage shook his head. Better to send them a few meters apart, that way the claws won't hit each other. Or, even better, adjust the speeds a little. Throw them off track, make it harder to guess when they'll land. He sighed, frustration creeping into his voice. As an ice specialist, he had a rough time getting his shards to hit anything without being deflected. Meanwhile, Carl, a bit confused, glanced around. Wait, this isn't the cafeteria I'm used to. Where are we? A tall blonde mage grinned, explaining, "This is the Mage District cafeteria. There's another one in the warrior training area for those far from the dorms. The food's totally different in each. Warriors get more muscle building options, while ours is mana rich. The dorm one's a mix of both, but mostly for the elites who study all day." Carl nodded thoughtfully. Good to know. Carl, a young, reluctant hero from a war-ravaged, high-tech realm, struggles to survive in the Golden Divine Academy, a place where failure is a death sentence. Marked with mysterious claw scars, Carl's powers seem dormant, unlike the flashy abilities of the other students. However, a small act of kindness saving a hawk triggers his class. Beast Tamer, claw-marked, and a bond forms between him and his hawk. This bond awakens his latent abilities, supervision and the brutal skill, Rend. But unlike the others, his powers evolve slowly. With no family, no weapons, and a constant threat of mockery, Carl must navigate the Academy's harsh political landscape and fight to survive. Amid rivalries and growing enemies, he uncovers dark secrets about the Divine Serum that may hold the key to an ancient war, his bloodline, and the mysteries of his unique power. Will Carl's wits and his evolving beast be enough to rise to the top, or will he become another casualty of the Academy's cruel trials? In the high-tech, war-torn realm of the Golden Dragon Nation, young Carl, the son of a miner, faces an uphill battle after being marked with 3 glowing claw scars. This strange mark, tied to the Divine Serum experiment, sets him apart from others, and he soon discovers his true class, Beast Tamer, Claw Mark. While he struggles with slow power growth, Carl bonds with a tiny hawk, unlocking extraordinary abilities like supervision and the deadly Rend Strike. As he navigates the elite Golden Divine Academy, Carl must prove his worth, facing mockery from mages and warriors, all while uncovering the secrets behind his mysterious powers and the ancient bloodline war that the state has tried to bury. It's a fight for survival, as Carl evolves, trains his hawk, and climbs the harsh academy ranks. His journey isn't just about strength, it's about trust, strategy, and finding his place in a system designed for failure. The instructor, a compact yet tough man in his late 40s, eyed Carl with a sharp gaze. He wasn't exactly elite material too old for the special selection years ago, but with his martial arts skills, he was the right guy to whip new recruits into shape. Most recruits were weaklings who knew next to nothing unless they'd been fortunate enough to have some secret training before joining. And those who'd been injected with the Divine Serum had slim odds of unlocking any real power, maybe 5% at best, but there were always those willing to take the risk. This is Carl. He's got agility, with a ranged magical attack using gauntlet claws. It's a versatile skill set, and since it's gauntlet-based, he should fit right in with your unarmed combat training, explained Rita. The instructor nodded. All right, let's see what you've got. Show me what you can do. Carl chuckled nervously, and Rita smirked, knowing full well that Carl was pretty much clueless when it came to actual combat. but with the enhancements he'd been getting from his hawk companion, at least he wouldn't completely embarrass himself. The instructor caught the nervous look on Carl's face and grinned. "Don't sweat it. It's just unarmed combat. Leave your gauntlets here and let's spar." Carl, a young orphan from a mining town, finds himself caught in a brutal world where only the strongest survive. After being forcibly drafted into a military academy, he discovers that his mysterious claw marks are not just a symbol of survival, but the key to unlocking hidden powers. With his hawk companion and slow developing abilities, Carl faces endless challenges and enemies who mock him for his lack of flashy skills. But Carl's sharp instincts and a bond with his hawk allow him to carve his own path in the cutthroat hierarchy of the academy. As he trains his beast and masters his powers, he uncovers dark secrets about the origins of his strength and the true purpose of the Academy's trials. Will he rise through the ranks, or will the weight of expectations break him? The battle is just beginning, and Carl will need more than just strength to survive. Not bad, kid. I've got a good read on your fighting style now, so we'll throw you in with the mixed martial arts group. Those stand-up guys? They're great against soldiers, but you're better suited for bar brawls and dealing with monsters. Sounds weird, right? But with your speed and power, you'll stun plenty of common monsters with a well-placed punch to the head. Plus, grappling skills will keep those claws away from you. This isn't an offensive art. You've got your ranged attacks for that. But if they get too close, we'll teach you to defend yourself. Punching a magical beast in the face? Yeah, it sounds awful, but if it comes down to that or getting bitten, it might not be the worst option. Rita, come over here and help us out. Your student needs to get the basics down, and we've got an even number of students now. Rita, looking like she was about to sit out, stepped in without hesitation. Not many of these new guys would be able to stand up to Carl anyway, and it'd just be bullying to let him spar with those who didn't get the physical boost he had. Later, Carl found himself back at the cafeteria, drained and sore from head to toe, barely able to walk. But the memory water worked its magic, and he could recall every single one of the 50 techniques he'd learned that day. After a few more weeks of training, his body would remember it, and maybe, just maybe, he'd be able to call himself a trained amateur fighter. Sitting alone at a table, he was soon joined by others from the unarmed combat class. "Man, you hit the jackpot with that awakening, didn't you?" It's just the first week, but Carl's already making waves. A guy from the mixed martial arts crew looks at him, nods, and says, "You got a personal trainer?" Carl grins, "Yeah, they tossed me one. Guess my marking's too strange, so they didn't know what skills I'd wake up with. Now, we're kinda winging it." The others at the table chuckle. "So, what about you guys? I'm guessing most of you got the grappler or monk marks, right? Like the open hand or the staff over the fist?" One of the boys chimes in, "Yeah, the initial skills are weak, but at least they're easy to trigger. I woke mine up just by punching a shelf before even getting out of bed." Another laughs, "It's a bonus for sure. Even if we don't hit the top ranks, at least we're set for a bit of popularity with the ladies." Carl shrugs with a smirk. It's better than nothing. It was the middle of the night when Carl tossed and turned in his bed, already dreading the mage class that awaited him in the morning. Meanwhile, Hawk, in his corner, was deep into absorbing the wind gem that had been gifted to him. The energy should have given him some incredible gains, considering the level difference, but after the first stone, the one that propelled him to awaken status, there were no major shocks. His mana steadily rose, dragging Carl's growth along with it, but it wasn't anything groundbreaking. With a sigh, Carl fell into a restless sleep, only to be jolted awake before dawn as a rush of magic surged through his body. The absorption had granted Hawk a shiny new skill, though for Carl, the magic still remained out of reach. But Hawk couldn't help but boast, "Now that's more like it. Another spell for you, and one that no regular windspeed Hawk could ever manage. Congrats!" Carl, wide-eyed, cheered for the little hawk that had just settled back to sleep, now fully in control of its magic with the help of the enchanted stone. It was ready for rest until hunger struck again. Carl, on the other hand, was stuck wide awake, heart racing from the excitement, only managing to drift off just before his alarm blared for breakfast. A fellow cadet from the combat training class chuckled, noticing Carl's chipper mood. "You feeling okay? Not sore?" he asked. Carl grinned, brushing it off. "I recover fast. Just need to eat right to keep up," he said, pointing to the massive plate in front of him. His appetite had exploded since his powers began to awaken, and his clothes, now a size too tight, screamed for a change. After breakfast, it was straight to the supply room. There, he was greeted by a towering woman drenched in a raincoat who barked, "What do you need? Laundry's not ready yet, but I'll drop it off in your room." Carl was growing fast, too fast for his current uniforms to keep up. "I can't even get my shoes on right anymore. I'm standing on the heel," he said with a sigh. The laundry woman, quick to respond, handed him fresh gear and boots, along with sandals for good measure. "You might need these if you turn into one of those giants. Keep everything in good shape for the next round of students," she advised. Carl nodded, taking the gear, then retreated to his room to change. Once he was done, he headed down to meet Rita for their morning briefing with the mages. Along the way, he reached out to his Hawk companion, Hawk, for advice. "Hey Hawk, which one's better for mana efficiency, Rend or Windshield?" he asked. Hawk didn't hesitate. Rend, of course, but Windshield's got you covered for big hits and water balls. Carl could only nod in agreement, ready for whatever the day would throw at him. "Stupid water balls," Hawk muttered, clearly annoyed. Carl wasn't sure what had set the bird off. Maybe it was the fact that Hawk had spent most of the morning sulking, or maybe the little guy just needed more attention. "Why don't you come out and sit on my shoulder for the morning? We can block water balls together," Carl offered, trying to lighten the mood. Instantly, Hawk was perched on his shoulder, rocking back and forth, impatient to get started. "I take it Hawk is going to join us today?" Rita asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, he was getting a bit stir-crazy," Carl replied. "I figured it'd be good training for him, plus there's enough spells around here to keep him busy. Don't worry, he knows not to attack the casters." Rita chuckled, leading them to the training grounds where the mages were already waiting. "A pet bird? That's awesome. Is he just gonna watch?" Carl, the 14-year-old from a mining town, arrives at the Golden Divine Academy with no power, just 3 glowing claw marks on his forearm. Thrust into a world where survival depends on magical strength, he bonds with a small hawk after protecting it from abuse during the train ride. This bond awakens his class as a beast tamer Clawmart. As his hawk evolves, so does Carl's ability, unlocking new powers like supervision and Rend. But unlike the flashy mages and warriors, Carl's growth is slow, and he's constantly mocked by his peers. With no weapons and no family, he faces a brutal academy system where failure means death. However, as the hawk becomes more powerful and Carl's abilities develop, he learns to rely on his wits and instincts to survive, all while uncovering a dark secret behind the mysterious divine serum that may lead to the key to an ancient bloodline war. Since when do they have a barrier ability? One of the other mages chuckled before his fireball simply vanished against an unseen shield. Damn it, they do have a wind shield. Fine, I'll just counter it. The fire mage seethed as the others around him laughed and the hawk perched nearby screeched in delight. Undeterred, the fire mage launched 3 fireballs, each fired at different speeds to confuse the defense. Hawk, showing his impressive skill, extended his toes and swung his foot, sending out a trio of slicing blades that struck all 3 fireballs at once. The other mages cheered, impressed. Man, he's good. No wonder they say trying to escape from bird-type monsters is a nightmare.